And I'm using this.
Good morning, good afternoon to everybody who's here with us today.
That's on the
Welcome to
table.
this
It has
great
the
panel
sheet.
here. Our friend, one of our friends is will be joining if she gets to, but I'm going to have this panel here. Go ahead. I think she's on now. There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
we can hear you. So
Good
I'm going to
morning.
go ahead and have Alice Munja introduce herself.
Okay. My name is Alice Mundia. I'm the
Okay, so I
chairperson of
changed.
Children
Yeah.
Society of Kenya, a psychosocial support group of children of parents with children on the autism spectrum. We are based in Kenya, and our psychosocial support group has 400 to 500 parents. So I chair the organization. At the same time, I am a mother of a 16-year-old young man on the autism spectrum. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Alice Mundia. Really good to have you. Celestine, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Celestine Quadio. I'm from Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan, and I'm mother of 4 boys, and the second one is on the spectrum. And I created an association for parents of children with special needs, not only autism, but Down syndrome and so on. And we are a very young association, and we try to work for awareness and to encourage each other. My son is 14 years old. He's nonverbal.
Thank you so much, Celestine. Okay, we'll go ahead. Daisy. Daisy.
Hi, Ruth. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Daisy Jonathan. I'm a Nigerian. I'm a special educator. I work with children with different abilities. I also, very importantly, I have a son who is 12 years. He's on the autism spectrum. I like to say he's kicking autism every day. And I also run a support group of mothers with children with different abilities called the Warrior Moms Support Group. We are cut across about 15 countries with over 500 mothers.
Wow.
I'm also a behavior analyst.
Oh, nice to hear all these beautiful things from you guys. Fabi, I think.
Hi, can you hear me?
Fabi is frozen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we hear you.
Okay. My name is Fabi, and I am a mom of a child with autism, and also a behavior analyst. I live in Virginia, and I'm originally from West Africa, Guinea. So I also the founder of Autism Bird. We have an association here for children with autism and families of children with autism. And I also have my own practice as a clinician. It's called Learn Me LLC. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, we can hear you. I hope you guys can increase your. I think Fabi, you're disappearing a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
So, no, you're clear, but it's slow. I don't know if everybody else can hear her clearly.
I heard it.
Good. Okay. So we good.
I heard Fabi too, yes.
All right.
There
Alice?
is a little delay, but we hear her.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead that they've done the introductions. I'm going to ask, I'm going to go with Celestine and ask the first question.
Okay.
Cultural acceptance and myths. How did your family's friends, relatives, how did they react to when they, when they hear about autism? How did you, what action did you take? How, can you walk us through?
When I get the information to my family, I received very very good support. I am in a very good terms with my siblings, so they try to not to stress me. They try to help me support the case. I can say that in Côte d'Ivoire, when we remark that our son has some little problems, we went to a center for children the for disabilities. There is psychologists and special educators there, and they make the diagnosis. But it is, I can say, more than 12 years ago. They don't know many things about autism, so they told us about cycles. They speak of epilepsy. So we went in a treatment of epilepsy. But my husband and I were looking searching in internet, and we know that we suspected that our son was on the autism spectrum. So when 5 years later, after the first diagnosis, we went to France in hospital where they make another diagnosis, and they told us the boy is on the autism spectrum. It was not a shock, because 5 years before, I and my husband, we were convinced that he was on the spectrum. So the shock was not too much, but when we explained things to our families, they were very kind, and they support us very well. I can say that my boy goes to holidays to my siblings' house. In the beginning, we were obliged to let him be accompanied by his nanny to help him and to take care of him apart. But I think right now he can go to in a weekend alone with his brothers. So we have a very good support from our families, and I have my friends and my colleagues who are aware of the situation of my boy, and they give me good support. They participate with me to the autism awareness days, and they are very punchy to help me.
Thank you so
That's
much.
what I can say.
That's awesome. Alice Mundia, talk to us.
On my end, when my son was diagnosed, he was about 4 years. My children are twins. So I have twin boys. One is neurotypical, and the other one is on the autism spectrum. So what I think that the key challenge was at that point in time when they were young, when they were growing and growing up together, I could see like one of my boys was missing out on some of the milestones, and his brother was achieving some certain milestones, and they were not at par in terms of achieving some certain milestones. At the same time, my son was having challenges with tonsillitis and adenoids. And I remember, so when I talked to the doctor, and the doctor advised that we go for the diagnosis, that my son needed to be reviewed. When I talked to the doctor, at first, the doctor indicated that he needed to be treated for his tonsillitis and adenoids. And the recommendation, because it was recurring over and over again, the recommendation was that he has the tonsillitis removed and he has the adenoids removed. Then after that, he still continued to show signs of delayed milestones. And in fact, At one point, he had gained a bit of speech and then he lost it completely. He was completely quiet, came down with hyperactivity. And that's when the doctor sent me to a hospital, a referral hospital within our area. It's called Kenyatta National Hospital. And then he was diagnosed. I remember I was sent to the occupational therapy center in Kenyatta. And that's when I received the diagnosis that my son had autism. So basically, I had to go home also and communicate also with my family and tell them that my son has received a diagnosis. And that came also as a shock, as a shocker for us, because basically I remember my family members, most of them argued that these are delayed milestones. He's going to achieve those milestones. He's only 4 years. If he's persistent in a kindergarten, he's going to learn from other children. He's going to achieve these milestones. I think everybody was in disbelief. And given that autism is a hidden disability, also there was a tendency of them looking at my son and saying, he doesn't show any sign of any disability. And I would explain to them about the hyperactivity, the PK eating. You know, the only thing that probably they could see clearly was the issue of communication, the fact that he's not able to communicate and verbalize and have speech. He's not able to, and on that one, they would keep seeing like it was something that he was going to achieve. He was going to learn from his brother. And given that he also has an elder brother, I have 3 boys myself. So given that he also has his elder brother, they kept saying like it's something that is going to change within a short period of time. Like, yeah, he said autism, yes, but I'm sure these things will change over time. So there was a lot of disbelief. And even when I kept consulting, and I remember even my own parents would tell me, just keep praying for him, keep praying for him. He's going to be just okay. You know, I think they didn't really take it like an autism diagnosis was something to deal with for a very long time. They kept seeing like it was something that was just going to come in and it was going to go. Yes. I think that was
Wow.
the issue.
Thanks,
Yes.
Alice. Yeah. I will let Fabi go ahead.
Yes, my son was diagnosed when he was 18 months. That's pretty early here. And the signs were he was nonverbal, basically. He was hitting all the milestones in terms of motor skills, and he was eating pretty well at the time. And it was just the communication issue. And my son was nonverbal until he turned 3 years old. So it was mostly communicating by pointing or by, trying to show you something by pulling you. So those were basically the signs that gave, the diagnosis of autism. But later on, we found out that he also had ADHD because he was jumping everywhere. He was a busy child, jumping, running all the time, and spinning. So our families, when they came to visit us, they did not understand what autism was. When we told them about it, it's just, they will tell you, he's just, a little delayed. It happens, to most of the children, he'll catch up. We'll pray for him. And I try to explain that this is not a disease. This is the way he's born, and this is a lifelong journey. He's normal. If you say that this is not normal, this is normal, and this will be for a long time. Yeah, so they still don't understand. They keep praying. When I call my mom, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your son, for him to, to catch up and be like a typical child. I pray every day. I'm like, Mom, you still don't understand. So it's just, it's an adjustment. They don't understand. They support us, but they don't understand.
No.
They just that it's, a handicap or a disability like any other disability that they see in Africa somewhere. So they think the person is a little crazy or something or delayed. But yeah, basically that's the situation here. But they still support us. It's family. And when they come here, they try to do what we do. We try to teach them. We try to educate them on how to handle his behavior, on how to deal with, on how to play with him, because it's not the typical relationship, grandparents child that they used to have back there. They just play and say jokes, and the child will understand. This is not the case. So they are kind of a little bit disoriented here. They don't know what to do. So we have to educate them on how to deal with him.
Thank you so much, Fabi. We go to you, Daisy.
Thank you, Ruth. I think my story is basically almost the same. For me, um, my
We
son
don't
was
understand you.
developing typically very well. He hid in cupboards, and the speech he had before then was all gone. At about the same time, I had the visit from a friend who came to the house, and she had an 8-year-old. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
But she disappeared. So we're gonna wait for Daisy to come back and maybe finish, I think, her network. So I'm gonna go ahead.
Ruth, 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 Ruth.
Yes,
I want to add something
sure.
on the reaction. I think when we discovered we they put a name on the situation of our boy. The shock was past since 5 years ago, but uh, what came? It is the anguish, a very huge anguish on what this boy will be in the future when his parents will be no more there, and it was a very very huge stress for me. And I think, Fabi, you 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 laugh when your mother pray for you, but prayer is a very good exhauster, because when I pray, someday I something came to me. You are human. You do what you can do for your child. You do all your best, but God will do after you. You can do what you can, but you can't ensure the future. So be calm, don't stress. And since this day, I am more happier, more in joy, in a very good joy, and it is very cool for me. I know that it is a situation that can be, he can have some we can do some job to perform, to get some good performance, but I live with this with peace and joy and serenity. So it is what I wanted to add. It is the new way mindset I get with this disability. I was for many years hurt when every time they ask me, does your boy speaks now, or in which class does he attend? It was a very source of sadness for me. But today, okay, he don't yet speak, but this will come, and life goes on. It is what
Yes.
I wanted to add.
Okay. So Daisy, are you gonna finish? Because I think you're gonna finish what you are saying.
Yeah. So I was talking about my son. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you, Daisy.
I can hear you. It looks like you can't hear me.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Hear you.
Oh, okay, okay. So he, when he was about 2, I had a visit from a friend, and she had a child who was nonverbal and quite hyperactive. And I asked her questions about him, and she couldn't give me answers. I'm naturally very inquisitive, so I went on the internet to find out why an 8-year-old was that hyperactive and why he was nonverbal. And oh no, are we still together?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I went on the internet and I went to read up, basically on autism. And while I was reading concerning this other child, my friend's son, the symptoms came staring, and I said, wait a minute, my son also, my son is doing all of this. And so that was the first time, I heard the word autism, and it was the first time I ever thought my son could be on the spectrum. He was about 2 years. So, I took him to a doctor, and the doctor said, no, he's fine. There's nothing wrong. Don't be bothered. Go home. And my husband believed, but somehow deep inside of me, I knew there was something not quite right with him, because he would go hide himself in a corner in a cupboard. He would open up a drawer and squeeze himself in it. He was spinning. He was, trying to, he had a lot of babbling going on, but he would babble with shadows. So he was obsessed with shadows, and then at the same time, we started to have pica picking up from the walls and eating. So I knew something was wrong. I went again to see a doctor, and the doctor sent me back home. So it got to the point where my husband said, do you want something to be wrong with this child? I mean, he's fine. And I said, something tells me it's not all going well, with him. So the third time, my husband went with me to see the doctor. And again, the doctor checked and said, hey, lady, I told you this boy is fine. On our way out, he jumped on the doctor's table. He jumped off my husband, and he jumped on the doctor's table and pushed down everything on the table. And the doctor said, oh, come back. There's something wrong with him. And he wrote on his paper, he wrote a prescription for, a medication, Ritalin. So that was the first time we knew, my husband could really come to terms that, okay, there's something. So we went back home to read about Ritalin. And, I found out that it wasn't something they should be prescribing as a first, it shouldn't be the first line of action, for him. So I called up my brother, my elder brother, and he said, just keep watching. I went to see someone else, and then I got initially a diagnosis for, at that time, PDD-NOS, that he had a pervasive developmental disorder, and so I cried. I kept crying. I had the crying. And then my brother said to me, see, Daisy, you can spend all your days crying, or you can get up and do something about your son. You have to do something. So at the time, I already was a Montessori teacher, and I decided to use Montessori, to teach him and all of that. So the acceptance, I think at the time, I had to come to terms with what was going on with him by myself first. So I had to be in a good place with him. I had to accept him first. I had to also accept myself first, and know the work that was cut out for me. So I knew I had to do a lot of, I had no doubt at any time that he would get better. I knew he would get better. I just didn't know how better he would get. I didn't know where we were going, but I know certainly we had to take some steps. We had quite a lot of people ask me questions from the church, especially, so people went very spiritual with it. Oh, this is the work of the devil, demons had come, I had to, sow seeds, I had to do this, so quite a lot of things. And then, of course, the other side of it was people giving you the subtle blame. What didn't you do? What didn't you eat? Where did you go? Who did you offend? So all of those came. And when the questions were hitting me, what I did was to go back in, and I built a world around me, and my family. So I only built a support, a system that would support me. So yeah, yes, the acceptance wasn't there 10 years ago. But at this time, everyone knows that Daisy is an autism mom. There's someone now not accepting my son or the children I now work with. I just say it as, yeah, we have more work to do as parents. So I could have been on the other end of the divide. I could have been the one discriminating if I didn't have a son on the spectrum. I could have been the one, doing all of that if I didn't have information and skills that I now have today. So the acceptance hasn't always been there. It's still not fully there, but we're able to work on it one day at a time.
I had to mute myself. All right. So all the stories here are almost similar to mine too. All went through, but the spiritual part, yes. I remember, I'll just talk about this part. When I traveled, I was explaining all my son's problem to the grandmother and the family. And early in the morning, they woke me up with a knock, like, okay, the pastor is here. I was like, okay. So they have that. You can't just tell them they can't do it because they have to do it. That's what they believe in. So they were after explaining it's nothing to do with the devil. It's something that's not spiritual. They still held my son's head and started praying for him. Whoever did this to you. So I mean, we have that culture. We still have that spiritual and science thing. So we just have to let our grandmothers do what they have to do, because at the end of the day, that's what they believe. It's just that you have to walk them through as we go by. And I think most of everybody's story here is similar. So we'll go to the next question, which is at home or whatever, what techniques did you use, did you adapt to help your son, Alice?
Thank you so much, Ruth. I would say that I recognized over time, as I looked at my son, I recognized that the key challenges of autism, social interaction, communication, and behavior, were very key. And those were the first areas to work on. And I remember in the early years, we also experienced the normal challenges that most parents on the autism spectrum experience, whether it's potty training, insomnia. There was challenges with insomnia, sleep problems. So I would say that immediately after diagnosis, there were things that were coming up, and I needed to deal with them one at a time. I remember telling myself that I didn't want to overwhelm myself so much. So basically, I would deal with one issue at a time. So I started on kind of like teaching my son basic skills, activities of daily living, teaching him issues like toilet training, teaching him how to brush his teeth, to dress himself, the basic things that would make him more independent. And I remember the techniques would use a lot of times would be songs, and we would break down the steps, yes, but would make them into a song. Like if you're going to teach somebody, you're going to teach, like when teaching him probably how to brush his teeth, then would make a song for brushing your teeth. So probably like what I would do is the twin brother would model, or the elder brother would model, or one of the family members, and would have them brush their teeth and we sing for them. And then my son, it's your turn. And then we also sing for him, and he attempts to do it, So I would say that the key techniques that probably we adopted as a family was singing. We sang more. We sang more to teach these skills. We broke them down, yes. We modeled. We sang more. We sang on every activity. I remember we would sing even in the loo. We would sing when brushing our teeth. We would sing when dressing. Explaining things, if it's wearing a vest, we kind of like adopted so many songs for the various activities that would make them fun. And as usual, probably when we are dressing, my son, of course, would jump up and down, and we would sing and sing and sing and sing. We would sing to bed. We would sing. Really, I think everything became like a song for us. And I appreciate how far we've come, because at 16, I would say my son has learned a lot of basic skills, activities of daily living. But I would also say that there are a lot of other activities that he needs also to learn to make him more independent. At the same time, we were able to get, I got a lady called Evelyn Jerry of an Appendeza. It's an organization internal within us in Kenya. So I got her also to work with my son off the school calendar and during the weekends, at least just to have some small time to myself. So they would do a 2-hour program, work within the estate, also teach him how to come home from the gate of the estate. Then they would do activities, some home activities, using picture exchange program. So it has been just a continuous journey of learning very, very many things. And I would say at teenage, there are now the unique challenges now that we face at teenage, probably that we did not face back then. And we also have to continue teaching new skills. I think over time, I've also recognized that when we look at the core areas of autism, the skills deficit part is very, very key, and learning new skills all the time and keeping them engaged so that they utilize their energy. I remember, especially in the young years, we had to acquire so many things. It's like you convert your sitting room into some playground of some sort, because you have a small trampoline in the sitting room, you have a gym ball, you have and it's over and over to try and just keep him engaged all the time. Okay.
All right.
Just to keep him engaged. I would say to keep him engaged all the time. I think my network is having a problem.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. We'll go to Fabi. Can you go ahead with that answer? What techniques do you use at home?
Okay. We'll go to Fabi.
Can you hear me? Yes. So yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes. What has worked for us is consistency. Consistency across people, across settings. I mean, at school, I can't tell you how many times I went to his school just to meet the teachers, the paras, the BCBA working there, the psychologists, just to make sure that they are feeding him the same way I'm feeding him. They are responding to his undesirable behavior the same way we are doing here, the same way the BCBA coming in the house is handling them. Because it's important to keep that consistency, because if the child is confused about the way we handle the behavior, he will not learn, quickly. He will not master the skills quickly. So consistency and repetition, that has worked for us. And being on the same page, everyone working with him. And also, the other thing is really following through. When we place a demand, when we ask him to do something, me or dad, we will follow through. And we want anyone coming here in our house to follow through. So we teach people to handle everything the same way we do it. Another thing is really, it's exhausting for a parent, and that's why I understand when a parent tells me, I'm exhausted, because you have to give your 150% as a parent. The BCBA or the speech or whatever therapy you are going to is minimal. You are the one spending time with the child. So potty training, we have to do it as parents. So basically, we just take that responsibility that we have to do what we have to do as parents, and not rely on therapies to raise our child. Our child is not any different as any other child. It's just, he has autism. He learned differently. That's it. But we have to potty train him we have to make sure that he goes to bed at this time, and stays in bed, sleeps through the night. If he cannot, then if we have to use medication, we'll use it at that point if he needs it. But it's just, taking that responsibility as a parent and saying, I'm responsible for this child and I'm going to raise him as a typical child. It doesn't make any difference for me. It's a child, typical or or atypical, it's the same thing. So basically that's the way we see things are, as family, as a parent of child with autism. It doesn't make a difference.
Thank you, Fabi. Okay, Celestine, go with you.
Okay. For me, I can say that I'm not so familiar to techniques, structured techniques like ABA, PEAK, and so on, and TEACH, and so on. So for these practices, I rely on his school, and this helped me very, very well. When we are at home, I will take two examples for the bath and for the potty. For the bath, we used to do to wash him, but gradually we help him. That is to say, I wash him, and then when I finish, I know that he is very clean. I give him the soap and the sponge to wash again himself. It is not very well, but step by step he began, and today he can wash himself, even if it is not so perfect, but he wash himself. And for the potty, what do I do? When he finished he had the habit, the bad habit, I want to say, when he finished in the toilet, he go where I am in the living room to tell me, to show me that he has finished and he need to be cleansed. So for many times he made this, but one day I began to help, to show him to clean himself. So when I finished to clean him, I give him the paper, the toilet paper, so that he can make the action by himself. We made that many times. Today, I don't know when he goes to the toilet, but I know that he goes to the toilet, but he do his things in the intimacy, and he is very clean. So it is a day-to-day effort. We have to be patient, and not to tell that he won't be able to be in autonomous. We have to make to tell us ourselves that our children can do what the typical ones can do. So we have to daily, each time, even it is 100 times, you have to insist. One day you will see that what you try, you taught to him is well kept, is work. He can do it by himself. So be consistent, be perseverant, and be confident in your child. It is what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Celestine. So we'll go ahead with Daisy to tell us her techniques at home and how she's managed to work around her child that can help parents.
Okay. For my son, we had quite a lot of different diagnoses coming in. In addition to the autism, we also had ADHD, and we had sleep issues. We had anxiety disorder at a time. We had some bit of aggression. We had major sleep issues. We could go at the time, some years ago, we could go 72 hours without sleep. And all he would just keep doing is the inordinate laughter and all of that. And for each of the different diagnoses, for each of the different symptoms he came up with, they were all handled differently. So for some of them, I needed to go the medical route. I needed to go check up what was going on in his system. So it wasn't basically not just about sitting down and praying and teaching. I had to handle the internal events, what was going on internally with him. So I did quite a lot of tests, checking up his, even up to the genetic testing, so that, because, a lot of people will come up with a lot of ideas, put him on this diet, put him on that technique. I needed to be sure of what I'm doing. So if I knew the diets were not going to cure the autism, but he might need, a specific way of eating to handle his sleep issues. So basically, I was handling the symptoms as they come, and those that needed, him to be on some form, of treatment, he had to be on treatment for. For others, we had to handle with a lot of structure. So I built structure around him, a lot of structure for him. There was actually an entire room in my house called a therapy room where, we had the resources for him, to work on. At about 3 years, I discovered that he could read. So we added another diagnosis of hyperlexia because he was reading without comprehending, but that also gave me a way to teach him to use speech. It gave me a way to teach him to communicate very well. So I could write out what I wanted him to do and then get him to read it. So I used those little scripts, little pieces of papers that I would write for him what to do. So when he wakes up in the morning, I show him a small strip that says good morning. So I don't have to tell him to say good morning. He has to read it up, and then he says good morning. And I say, oh, good morning. So we all became, in the house, we became therapists. Everyone was a therapist. His elder brother learned how to prompt him instead of to help him, because a lot of mistakes that would make initially was to want to do things for him. But after a while, with a lot more of the learning, the reading, the researches, I discovered that he had a lot of innate abilities. So I see him as a gift. I see him as a unique gift given that is wrapped up in a lot of layers of gift wrappers. And I see the therapies, I see the work that needs to be done as, taking up, one thing at a time, one wrapper at a time, to unveil the gift that is inside. So a lot of work went into that. So the sleep issues, yes, we were able to handle biomedically, running the test. I could, follow through with the genetic, what the genetic profile said and what to do for him, how he had to eat. I could follow through with the balances in the system not being quite right. So we knew how to handle that. But what worked for me, and I say this every time, was applied behavior analysis, ABA. ABA worked, and discovering ABA when he was 6 was the deal breaker for me, because I could learn techniques that could just do it consistently, use the principles of consistency and repetition, do one thing over and over again, and then you learn the skills, you learn how to prompt him, and you learn how to fade off yourself so that he becomes the individual that he is. So a lot of that. Very importantly, my husband and I agreed that there is nothing, in quotes, there's nothing wrong with him. He's an individual. Yes, he may have a neurodevelopmental disorder, but he doesn't have a physical disability. So it means he should be able to do what every other child around him. Yes, we need to push him a lot more. We need to give him more skills. We need to explain more. And, as we explained and as he grows, I have seen that the explaining has reduced, so you tell him what you want him to do and he gets it up. And it's taken one step at a time. trying to rush off and get him cured, was like an error, basically, because it just gets you running in all directions and in no direction. But once you know that this is an individual that you can unravel his gifts, his personality, his unique abilities one day at a time. There are things he does that I am surprised. I'm like, oh, so yesterday he came to the room and I was working on the computer and he got, upset. He came in, he wanted something and he wasn't saying, what he wanted. So I said, see, tell me what you want or you leave my room. So he went outside and he gave the door a huge bang. So I said, you have to come back here and do it the right way. So he came back in and said, I'm sorry, mommy, I won't do it again. And he stepped out and then he shut the door carefully. And that's a lot, if we have to look at where we're coming from. So taking it one day at a time, teaching him one day at a time what he needs to do, creating that structure in the house and explaining to everyone what the expectations are. So when I have a caregiver, maybe a domestic staff come in, I don't hide him. I say, this is who he is, but this is what I will not want you to do with him. So don't pamper him. If he's done eating, he should go keep his plates. The autism doesn't affect his hands. So he keep his plates, in the kitchen, let him clean up after him. So the adaptive skills, the activities of daily living. And then I also tried as much as possible to follow up with his interests. What are the things he's interested in? So sometimes he likes to read, he likes to write. At each time there's something new. There was a time he loved the music. We got him a music teacher. He dumped that. There was another time. So currently he loves to cook. So he's in the kitchen. I tell him, put this in, put that in, grind the pepper. And we're using every little thing in the house to teach him the things that he should know. So grind the pepper and count in tens. Help cut up this, help do this and count in 20s. So all of those activities, and as he does it, you can see that he's happy that he's able to do something and he's his own individual. So we put quite a lot of reinforcements in place. We gave him the same opportunities as we give our other children. And we didn't allow the diagnosis to come first. We allowed his personality to speak first, and one other thing that we also taught him to do are the affirmations, the affirmative words, I'm smart, I can do all things, I can speak, I can, and so we do all of that one, after the other. So the structure, yes, it did work, but we did have to do quite a lot of other treatments for the comorbid disorders. The disorders that were there in addition to the autism. Yes, we needed to do a lot of other work around that. And then for his, for the core autism symptoms, I would say the applied behavior analysis worked very well and is still working very well. Right now, he's fully mainstreamed and, he's getting ready for middle school.
Thank you, Daisy, for that. So I'm going to go with diet and I'm going to go to Alice Mundia. So we have a lot of parents talking about diet. What can you advise them? Because people will be like, oh, I hear if I give my child this, they're going to improve. If I don't give them this, what is your advice to parents about diet?
To me, as a parent and also as a leader, the chair of Different Related Society of Kenya, I think one of the key challenges we've had and one of the key areas of interests in most parents has been diet. And it is one of the most controversial topics because each person has their own ideas about what diet should be for a person on the autism spectrum. And we also recognize that each child is different from the other. When you meet one child on the autism spectrum, you've just met one child on the autism spectrum. They are all different. And I think probably one of the issues I would have a challenge with is issues like sugar, because of hyperactivity. I wouldn't really say that probably you need to observe your child to get to know exactly what your child eats and reacts to, because these children are all different. But I recognize sugar may have an issue, preservatives may have an issue, food color may have an issue. But at the same time, I would really avoid to talk so much about the diet issue. I know at one point in time, I've also been very keen on the diet, including going ahead and having a gluten-free, casein-free diet. But I have also recognized over time that there are things when my child was younger that I was very strict on, but over time I've realized that my child probably does not react to them. So each child is different. I would want parents to just observe your child. Observe what is this that your child reacts to? What is this that probably triggers hyperactivity when they consume or take? And it's good also to consult a nutritionist so that you don't just go on a diet. A 3-year-old, you just put them on a diet overnight without actually thinking, if you take away one item from the diet, what is the replacement? Because you have to ensure that children on the autism spectrum are also getting nutrients across board. So sometimes you may find that you're only giving some certain component of food and not another. And sometimes this child may also suffer malnutrition. So I would say each child is different from the other. The parent should observe, and second, it's good also to consult and to seek the opinion of a nutritionist, talk to your doctor, talk to your consultant, discuss also with other parents, but at the same time, always know that your child is different from another. I really not advise that you rush to just do a diet without observing your child, because each child is different. And over time, I've also realized that there are things I have adopted personally because of the nature of my child, because of observing my child. Like now, over time, we've been able to give him omega-3 supplements. I give him omega-3 supplements. Probably I check on the oil issue, and I try to use I try to use olive oil once in a while. I try to use olive oil more, especially. But a lot of times, I really don't want to discuss that topic that much. Yes, because I would say diet. It's when we check, is it scientifically proven? Is there any key recommendation that children of the autism spectrum should be put on a specific diet? Those are the two questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alice. I'll throw that to Fabi.
I would just say that I tried the GFCF diet, the gluten-free, and that I tried it despite the absence of scientific evidence. I know it's not proven. I tried it and I stopped when I knew better. So it's not something that I will, if your child is maybe lactose intolerant or something like that, or have, an issue with the gut or something, yeah, you can use diets. But me personally, I don't right now. I just give him regular, like food that we eat. He's already having issues with feeding. Like I sneak food in his regular food. I mean, the food he eats, the yogurt that he likes, I sneak sometimes a puree of meat because he doesn't like the meat and the chunk of meat. So I just blend them and sneak it in the yogurt for him to eat, to get the nutrient that I want to give him. So, and he also has chewing issues, texture issues. He's on the sweet side. He almost doesn't eat salt at all. So I have, enough issues to deal with here, trying to expand his food variety in our home. So I just don't want to try to put him on a diet. So yeah, it's a personal choice.
All right, Daisy.
Yeah, the diet topic is very controversial, actually. And it's quite common when you run a support group to hear the mothers ask about different diets And even in the school, amongst my students with special needs, I see some children who are starving, practically starving, because their parents feel they should be on one diet or the other. The question I always ask is why? Why? Why is this child on a diet? Because it's one thing to have a child on a diet because someone else is on that diet. It's another thing to have a child on a diet because the child really needs it medically. I believe strongly in feeding good food, and that's whether the child is on the spectrum or not, a diagnosis or the other. I have to be on the specific way of eating because of one or two health issues, because it's been proven that diet would work for those issues. Do diets work for autism? There's no empirical proof. Do diets cure autism? Of course, there's no proof that would work. However, I also believe that there are symptoms that come with autism, or they are, like I said before, there are other disorders or there are other diagnoses that come alongside the autism that may respond to specific diet. But that said, I would tell anyone, before you put your child on a diet, do the right medical tests. That's the only proof. That's the why. If the child my son is casein free, and that's because I'm also casein free, and that's because genetically he has an allergy to milk, and it runs in the family. So that's to say I have an evidence that this is what he doesn't need to eat. Now, if another mother goes on to put her child on a casein-free diet just because Daisy's son is on a casein-free diet, the question would be, have you done the prerequisite tests? Have you met with a doctor? Are you discussing with a nutritionist to decide what other replacements would work? So it's quite controversial. My son is on a diet. He's on a low oxalate diet. He's on a casein-free diet, and that's because his profile says that he needs those to help him deal with his health, majorly, not for the autism. So he needs that for quite a lot of things. And like I said, we had a whole box full of diagnoses, the sleep disorders, the anxiety disorders. We have quite a whole mix of different forms of diagnosis coming in together. And those are the things that the diets work. Now, is it the diet that is getting him where he is now? I would say no. That's the truth. I would say no. Yes, it does help, but it's not the cure. The diet is not a cure at any time. It's not going to cure. Diet is not going to cure your hypertension, for example. If you have hypertension, it's not going to cure your diabetes, but it's going to make your symptoms better. And if your symptoms do get better, yes, you just might lose the diagnosis for diabetes, but that doesn't mean that you still have to do the things that you need to do. So it's neither here nor there. I allow parents to make their choices, make their decisions, but it has to be an informed choice. So why? Why are you on a diet? And then who is helping you? Because you also have to think about the fact that professionals have to be there to guide you on the way. In the 10, 12 years that we've been on the journey, there's always been one, it's either there's an MHF protocol going on, or there's a READ diet, or there's an SCD diet, or there's always something. The question is this a perfect fit for your child? And then let's also not forget that we live in Africa, and a lot of the things that the GAPS diet, the READ diets, the MHF protocol is asking for are not things that are available in your environment. So that puts the mother under another form of pressure, another pressure to get those things, and the finances that should go into addressing the needs of the child, the other needs of the child, is placed on, running after something that you don't even have a proof that it works, and you haven't done the background work, the prerequisite work. So if anyone is going to use diet, and we can tell parents what to do and what not to do, if anyone is going to place the child on a diet, I would say do an allergy profile. Check out what exactly your child is allergic to. Do a genetic profile. Check out what the genes are saying, what genes are overexpressed, what genes are not overexpressed. And based on those genes, plan for your entire family. So my son eats what everyone in the house eats. And practically in my house, we do not do junk. So we do not do junk, and we do not do food that is processed. Would you not do food that has flavor? Would you not do food with coloring? Would you not do food in a packet or in a package? And we've been able to get here from his picky eating days to when he would accept every food that is cooked freshly for him with a lot of love. So I sprinkle a lot of love all over the food. And then, of course, something healthy that would feed his stomach and feed his brain.
Thank you so much. So we'll finish up with Celestine and then to add to that.
Okay. About diet, I have no particular issue, so nothing specific to say. My son eats everything the family eats, so I have no specific thing to say. But since 4 months, I began to give him fish oil and olive oil to help for his brain and for the gut. But I have no specific diet.
All right, thanks. So we're gonna wrap this last question, and I'll go back to Alice. Just tell us what myth you had that's not true about autism, and what do you as an organizer, what have you done in your community in regards to autism?
I think one of the key challenges, one of the key cultural aspects of our communities, probably in Kenya and across Africa, is that people think you have a child on the autism spectrum or a child with disability, either because of something you did or something you did not do. And we have had a lot of instances, even, a discussion in the support group where somebody is told, probably you did not give dowry, you need to sort out some issues within your family line. And I recognize that a lot of times this could just be a myth, because we recognize that autism is scientifically proven that it does exist. And the key challenges of autism, social interaction, communication, challenges in communication and behavior have been identified. And we recognize that you need to start helping your child on the 3 key areas. And I also recognize that in the African setup, people just tell you, just go back to your family line, check what is happening. And a lot of times this also becomes like a way of stigmatizing an individual within the family unit. And people look at you like, is there something you could have done and you're not telling us? Is there something that happened within your family line? There's something you need to look into. And a lot of times we find parents very distressed, including ourselves. When somebody tells you that you need to go back to your family line, then it leaves you very, 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 very distressed. And sometimes you may not even be well enough to help your own child. So we tell parents, and we communicate to them, we tell them all the time that the first thing you should do is check your mental health, check yourself. Are you well? Because you can only be well to be able to take care of your child. When you worry too much about the many, many things that people are telling you, then you may not be in a good position to take care of your child. So first thing is, are you well yourself? So once you sort out yourself psychologically, and that's why we have a psychosocial support group, and we have professionals within the group to respond to the various issues, parents encouraging each other, peer-to-peer support. You have a 10-year-old, I have a 10-year-old. We have the same unique challenges with our children. We discuss among ourselves. So one is to ensure that the parent is well. And the next thing is, once you're well, are you helping your child also to be able to achieve the various milestones? Because we recognize that autism is skill deficit oriented. Are you ensuring that your child is getting the necessary skills to be able to become independent, to be able to gain skills probably in the school setup? Are you ensuring that your child is well taken care of? The child is eating well, your child is interacting with others? Because we also recognize that a lot of times you have parents hiding their children and probably locking them up in the home setup so that you hide them from the public. Are you exposing your child to the social environment, recognizing that when they will grow older over time, and they will need to interact with others and survive in an environment where that is run by the neurotypicals, and they have to fit in a way, not necessarily just make the child fit in, but make the environment accommodative to them. So at a personal level, I remember we set up a WhatsApp group within the family unit. I set up a WhatsApp group, and I kept updating my family members over and over again on what autism is, teaching them about the various milestones, telling them about the various milestones probably we've achieved so far, the deficits. And I find that within the family setup right now that people keep asking me questions or referring other persons to me. If they find somebody on the autism spectrum, they are keen to tell me that, wow, I met this child who has these specific challenges. And also in the WhatsApp group now, we encourage each other. Where parents are experiencing certain challenges, we kind of like refer them to the professionals. We discuss among ourselves. We encourage them. We give them hope to continue. We probably sometimes organize even for a dinner, a mother's dinner, so that we are able to just discuss. We organize the workshops, the various forums, a sports day, so that our children can pray together. And we also join up as parents, as mothers, as fathers, and discuss among ourselves, have a small time to discuss on our issues. We discuss also in the WhatsApp group. And I think it's actually helping, because it's a societal issue, the cultural aspects of it. We are in the African community. There's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of little acceptance of persons with disability, probably culturally, because it's regarded like it's a family weakness, which it is not, because we know that persons on the autism spectrum, it's just that they are wired differently, but there's nothing abnormal with them. They are just they're just on the spectrum. They are just a little different from the neurotypicals. It's just their brains are wired differently, but they have a lot of talents. They have a lot to give to society, but society has to accept that there are people who are neurotypical and there are people who are on the autism spectrum. We have to ensure that they are accepted across board and they are included in all forums and in all activities. Even as a family, when we plan our outings, we have to ensure that our children are not left at home just because they are hyper. We need to expose them to the social environment and ensure that they are comfortable and that they can be able at a later stage as they grow older to be able to attend functions, attend events, and just be okay. Yes. Thank you.
All right, I'll go to Daisy.
Yeah. The question again, please. I didn't quite get your question.
It's about what myth that you want to, you can say that you had that is not true, and what have you done towards what's your community what are you doing with your community, towards your community to kill this myth? What are you encouraging? Because we're closing up, so I'm just going to.
There actually are a lot of myths in Nigeria, and as it is in every other part of Africa. The myth that it's only the rich. They tell you it's when you're rich and comfortable, you have a lot of money. That's when the autism comes. So it's an exchange for poverty. So the child came in, they'd exchange for poverty, and they feel as soon as you say your child is autistic, oh, it means that you have a lot of money, and which is not true in any way. It is not true. And we hear quite a lot. We hear that the mothers, sometimes they would say the mothers didn't eat right. Someone said when you eat snails, I don't know if you eat snails in your country. So when you eat snails, the child begins to develop slowly like a snail, so all sorts of myths here and there. And what we've done, as first as an individual and then for my organizations has always been to increase awareness. I always say until there's enough awareness, until there's acceptance. So while I'm trying to prepare the child for the environment, for the time when I'm no longer there, which is a fear of every autism parent. When I'm no longer here, is this environment ready, for my child? Will his siblings be there to support him? Will my family members accept him like they would every other child? How is he able to cope? So from the family, the first thing is to make advocates out of every member of my family, you know. And when I say my family, I mean my family and my husband's family. So tell them what autism is and what autism is not. Try to share with them, you know, the successes, you know, people on the autism spectrum have been able to make, you know, and also let them know that it's an entire spectrum. There might be the very severe, there might be, you know, and no 2 days are the same in the life of any individual, you know, just the same way in the life of a child, you know, on the autism spectrum. So he may also have some good days and he may have some bad days. And we're there to support him through the days that are rough, you know, and there to celebrate him on the days, you know, that are the good days. So yes, we had to first teach everyone. I had to teach my husband. My husband went very spiritually initially, you know, so he would say things like, "Oh no, my son can be on the autism spectrum. I pay my tithes." You know, he would say things like, "I pay my tithes, I sow seed, you know, I serve God," you know, all of that. And yeah, autism can be in the life of anyone. It's not what you did or did not do. It's not whether you're good or you're bad. You know, it's nothing you did or didn't do. It's just something that happened. For what reason, we don't know. But I mean, this is a child we faced. And I also try to let them understand, the people in my family, that this child is a gift to us to be able to see the world differently. I can't imagine what my life would have been without him, really, because, you know, a new side, a different side of who I am. I never knew I could be this strong. I never knew that I could set up organizations. So maybe I would have been somewhere else working, you know, doing one work or the other. But, you know, I had to go back to school. I had to pick up another degree, another master's. I had to pick up everything and, you know, bring the strength. So yes, I look at him every day and I say, thank you. Thank you for making me a strong mother. Thank you for opening my eyes to understand inclusion, to understand how to work and be with everyone. Thank you for teaching me to fight, you know, and all of that. And on the larger community level, we've done quite a lot in terms of media programs, you know, going on the media, running campaigns that can be quite expensive. But, you know, there was a time we had to do all of that, go on the radio and tell people what autism is and what autism is not. It is what people do not understand. That is what they discriminate against. If they do understand the uniqueness of these children, then they won't discriminate. So while we complain about the discrimination and the stigma, it's important that we take a pause and we look at this people and say, hey, they don't have information. We have information and we have to give them that information. What people do not understand is what they run away from. So we also have to teach them the skills. We have to teach them how to love. We have to teach them how to accept, you know, and do all this. So we do that through the radio and through the television. So throughout the month of April, in my organization, I've also done quite a lot of free assessments and evaluations so that parents can actually get their children properly evaluated and assessed. You know, because we really do not have too many services in Africa and of course in Nigeria. And where the services are, we do not have enough people being able to pay for it. So at least let's be able to give. I did quite a lot of that online due to the COVID-19. So let's be able to open up to say, you know, come talk to me, you know, let me teach you what to do, or let me guide you, let me lead you, let me show you what, you know, it's possible for you to do. And it's surprising how just a little push, in a little nudge here and there, the parents are able to pick up. On the support group, yes, we're there for those who feel their world is tearing apart because of the child, marriages being torn apart, people losing their jobs because they have to be with the children. For those who have very severe challenges, you know, some of the mothers have to stop working to be with the children because they don't have enough care providers. So we do quite a lot of support psychosocially so that you understand that it's, you know, most times when the parents come to my office and they start talking and crying, I tell them, just look ahead, look at me. If I can do this, so you can. So look at Daisy, you know, we had all of these, and this is where we are now. So take it one day at a time, one step at a time. You surely will get it. I tell parents, read as much as possible. Read equip yourself with information, do as much as you can. And when you are tired, just find somewhere to hide. Hide, take 30 minutes, take 2 hours, sleep, go to the spa if you can afford it, get a massage if you can afford it. If you cannot, just drink a bottle of Coke and let the world just be still for a while. And, after all of that is done, get up, face the world again.
Thank you, Daisy. We'll go to Celestine.
Okay, concerning the myth, one day a friend of mine told me that I I I have she received that I have done something during my pregnancy that have effect on my child, and it troubled me at the time. I was seeking in my memory, but I didn't find anything wrong that I would have done during my pregnancy. So I chased this idea to say that people want always to find a spiritual or supernatural reason to autism, but it is not always the case. And I can say there should be very low percentage of this occurrence. So what I do with another structure organization, we participate in the month of autism awareness. We make the many activities like sport, like conferences, and in our association we have some group, a WhatsApp group. We speak each other when someone has an issue. He posts it, and every parents or therapists who are in the group can give advice or some tips to help the person who has the issue. And in the we organize a walk in a botanical park of our city. The idea was to mix parents, children with disabilities, and their siblings, so that all of them can can take quality time together, because there is a great issue with the siblings, and we work on it, and we hope we have the other opportunities to have this kind of activity with the whole family, so that people can go everywhere with their children. Many have some boundary, have some they don't want to go away with the children because they are ashamed, or because they are feared of the other sight on them. I think it is not a good thing. As a parent, I go everywhere with my child. I go to the supermarket. I go to church. I go to work in the neighborhoods, and I go everywhere with him. Sometimes people are not very kind with us when he began to to shout, or to have his stereotypes, but it's nothing for me. I impose my child to them, and I even if I try to help me to calm down, but I I'm not ashamed to go everywhere with him, and it is something every parent should work on, to make the children socialize. And the last thing I want to say, it is that we have a project to 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 make an advocacy for more public centers, because there are some centers public, but there are few, and they generally they took few children, and it is for half day, whereas the parents go to work for full day. So it is a very huge problem. There are some structure in the private structures that it is very, very expensive. So we need to get public public aid to help parents to put their children in school and go to work freely. And I forgot what the other thing I wanted to say. So I have finished.
Okay, thank you. Fabi, would you just wind up this and just say what would you advise on as a BCBA on myths?
Yeah. I think the only myth that I'm really fighting about is the myth of inability. When I see parents, I mean, teachers or the society just working on goals for our children uh, based on something they cannot do, it just frustrates me because I know that you cannot say that a child is not able to do something if you have not take the time to teach a skill to that child. So I think our children are smart. I think they are able to learn, and I think they can be whatever they want. We just have to be willing as a society to teach them. There's no inability here. They are all
Exactly.
able, able to do something. It's just that they learn differently. I'm just gonna, sometimes I do presentations and I'm gonna tell you that I write my script, I learn it, and I memorize it before going. It's my way of learning and my way of, you know, being able to present stuff.
Mhm.
So our children are not any different. We have to find the way that works for them and teach them that way. When I see adults, you know, on the autism spectrum, with coaches in restaurants trying to work on how to clean the kitchen or how to clean the floor, or as janitors, I'm completely I'm frustrated because our children can also be engineers. They can also be scientists. They can be whatever they want. It's just that we lower the expectation that we put of them on them. And I want people, that's my fight every day. I want people to be able to challenge our children and let them fail on their own terms. That's my fight, basically. I want them, if they want to be janitors, then they want to be janitors on their own terms, not because someone decided that's what they can do. Expose them to as many things as
Right.
possible to see what they can do, and then give them the choice to do what they want. They are people like you and I, and they have emotions, and they can make choices. So yeah, that myth of inactivity has to go away. It has to go away.
Wow. Thank you, guys. I hope that everybody
Thank
who's
you.
been watching, I've got tons of information. I know they've got questions that we will follow up after we finish. So I appreciate this panel. They have a lot of wisdom, a lot of advice. Even me, as a parent, I'm still, it's like we are still learning. Even if we think we've known everything, it's like it's always something new. And I really hope they come back and teach us more, because I'm seeing a lot of people are really happy with this, with what they are hearing, what they are seeing, the advice. And I want to appreciate each one and each one and every one of you, because autism has got us connected one way or another, more than we can think of. So I'm going to say, we're going to say goodbye for today, but if you have any questions, you can reach the ladies out and talk to them in whatever channel they're in. Facebook, I see you can tag them in any question you have, or give them a props up. So we're gonna end up this talk. I think we shall say bye and thank you guys.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much,
Goodbye.
Ruth. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you so much.